Welcome to the CEO Breakfast and Strategy Series. I'm Tom Kunkel. I'm the president of St. Norbert College, and along with our sponsors, we are so pleased you could join us this morning. I especially want to thank you for braving this horrible snowstorm that we've had. I was talking to Amy a minute ago. I mean, I'm just a country guy from Indiana, but I said, you all do remember you do live in Wisconsin, right? Everybody's a little panicky, so it's interesting to watch, but we are very, very glad you're here. We have a special speaker today, and I know that you're going to enjoy it. For 18 years, the CEO Series has been providing area executives with the opportunity to hear from some of our top area business leaders. This resource is being brought to you through the generosity of our presenting sponsor, WPS Health Insurance, a RISE Health Plan. The title sponsors are Whitley, Imaginasium, Insight Publications, Johnson Bank, Johnson Insurance, the Navigator Planning Group, Johnson Bank, Johnson Insurance, and the Navigator Planning Group is the sponsor of this session, so thanks for that. Please take the folders at your place with you and take some time to review the information. At this time, I'd like everybody to, let's put ourselves in God's presence. All kidding aside, we do want to say that we were thankful for all seasons, including the season we are in, the beauty and the power, the majesty of winter, but we also ask your grace and that everyone stays safe, keeps their heads today, later, especially when this storm does arise, so that we can truly enjoy it. And we are grateful to be residents of one of the most beautiful parts of the United States, and we are reminded of that beauty through all four seasons. Just at this point, I would just say, bless us, O Lord, for these thy gifts, which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen. We're going to have a bite of breakfast, and we'll be back in a few minutes with our program. Enjoy. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce Dan, not only one of the most prominent, successful business leaders in our area, but also a friend and a colleague and somebody whose family, who personally and whose family have been so supportive at St. Norbert College. So Dan, we really, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us for the CEO Breakfast. Dan is the great-grandson of Henry Ariens, founder of the Ariens Company.
I don't look that old, do I?
Dan joined the company in 1983 and was named CEO in 1998. His leadership is defined by a set of 5 core values: be honest, be fair,
I'm going to use the timer.
Keep our commitments, respect the individual, and encourage intellectual curiosity. Dan's a strong proponent of lean manufacturing principles and has created a culture of continuous improvement that has resulted in the creation of world-class manufacturing facilities by lean standards. He and the Ariens Company have been recognized by multiple organizations for these efforts. Dan has led several strategic acquisitions during his tenure, creating a family of brands that represent several of the most respected names in the consumer and commercial equipment markets. He's an active participant in industry issues and also holds leadership roles in the Wisconsin business community, including chair of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. He is also involved in the community, serving as corporate secretary for the executive committee of the Packers, and he serves on the board of Research Products Corporation, Sartori Company, and U.S. Venture. And again, I just want to say we really appreciate everything Dan and his family have done for the college, and many of you know that when you come to campus today, especially if you have a prospective student in hand, your portal is the Ariens Family Welcome Center, which has done so much to improve our ability to truly welcome families to St. Norbert College. So will you please join me in welcoming Mr. Dan? Dan?
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Good morning. I'm actually going to use a timer so I don't run long here, because I know that we all have busy schedules. And can you hear me? How's the microphone? Good? Mic's not working? Hi, Bob. Good morning. I got to hold it pretty close.
Or else talk really loud.
I got to multitask here. I'm going to talk really loud. How's that? Is that better? All right. I might be the only one excited about this snowstorm coming, which is... Tom said I could do all the snow jokes, so I appreciate that. That's right up my wheelhouse. We've had actually a pretty mild winter, you know that, right? So just a quick business update. Our year is a July 1 through June 30, and the talk I'm going to give you is about leadership. And one of the things that challenges our business really and is so difficult to manage is that we can swing pretty wildly on our top line, and it makes for trying to balance 12 months of a business year really difficult. So in November and December, our business top line was off pretty close to 40%. So, you know, trying to balance all those things. Now we've just reforecasted our year looking at what we call our 6+6 forecast, and we see a big spring in front of us, so we're trying to, you know, manage through overheads that you've all got in your business while you take that big hit for a couple months and then continue to run a plant at the same time. So that's what we do, and that's why I call this talk the art of leadership balance. And we're always balancing these challenges in a very seasonal business at Ariens Company. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. This is a talk that I gave about 3 or 4 years ago. I thought I would use it here, Tom, and just use it in terms of the executive and the CEO series and the things that we all deal with as leaders at any level that we have in our businesses. So I have a couple of things. First, I just want to talk a little bit about Ariens Company, and this is, most people know us for our snowblowers, and our best known brand is the Ariens Snow Throw. We call it the King of Snow. Across the globe, it's the #1 selling brand name of snowblower in the world. So from the Alps to the Japanese mountains to all over North America, the Ariens Snow Throw is all over. We get tons and tons of mail. And this is one of the most interesting letters we ever received, which is from a customer, literally. And I know it's very hard to see in the back, but we had a customer actually draw us a cartoon of his struggles to figure out. And one of the letters on here that's so interesting you can't see in the middle, it says 10M60, which tells us that this is a product that was built in about 1960 or 61. And he's trying to find parts. So he draws this cute cartoon of where do I find the manual for my Ariens Snow Throw, and it's a 10M60, which, you know, in our vernacular, that's a pretty old product. So this is what we call a passionate customer and someone that's really excited. And a lot of Ariens Snow Throw customers are really, they're like fans. They love to tell us what they did in the last blizzard. So, it's actually fun to read these letters. This was probably the most entertaining we've ever seen, and it just came in this fall. So our guys got together and said, let's draw a cartoon to this customer back to tell him where he needs to find his parts. And then, you know, so literally there, it's a 10M60 is a Tecumseh engine. This is built a long time ago. Here's the manual. And we sent him a nice cartoon back. But what that really is the fact that our vision statement for our company is that we are passionate people. We come to Brillion, we go to Auburn, Nebraska, and our plant in Oxford. Everywhere we are, we try and be a passionate group of people, and we love what we do every day. And when we astound our customer, then we have achieved our vision. And we know that that's a journey, because to be astounded every time is not an easy thing to do. So we're always on this journey to find the next fan, the next customer that loves their Ariens product or loves what we do for them. And the energy about this is to try and find the most passionate people that really love what they do coming into work every day. And you know how hard that is. Take every one of your people, how do you keep them at a passionate level? I think some of these attributes in leadership help to drive that passion. One of the first things we try and do is achieve a balance within our own company. We've grown tremendously. I took over as CEO in 1998. We're about 4 times larger than we were then. And in a manufacturing outdoor power equipment business, it's not a high growth industry. So we've been able to take share. We've been able to enter new markets. We've done a lot of things that are exciting and fun. So we're really seeing ourselves as a high performance company. but at the same time we want to continue to balance a really strong culture around family and who we are as a family business. So the values we have that Tom talked about, our core values, are essential to who we are as a family business, and always trying to balance a yin-yang between high performance and doing it in the right way, which we mean as doing it as a family business. So these are my 7 sort of what I call the art of leadership balance. And you've seen this, I think St. Norbert or Lawrence University, good universities talk about the servant leader. See, there's even a group called Servant Leader. I know I'm overusing a topic here, but just a couple of stories around each one of these attributes maybe helps you get a picture of what I'm talking about. The first, and the servant leader really is the essential value of our company and our family business, and it does start with these core values. I mean, important for you to know that we talk about these things in Brilliant, in our other plants, all the time. In every office, you will see both our vision statement and our core values. And I always tell new employees when I do a meet and greet with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all I do with them is talk about the core values. And I have a 5, I have a 15, and I have a 50-minute speech on the core values. And it depends on where we're at or what we're doing. Sometimes I think people need the 50-minute speech, so I give them the full 1 hour, and we come back to what it means to be an Ariens employee or an Ariens associate or a team member in our culture. We're honest with each other. We're fair with each other. We're fair in how we make decisions. Is it right for us as a group? Is it right for the team? Is it right for our customers? Fair to us is really doing the right thing all the time. We keep our commitments to each other. If we promise something, we deliver that, and then we do that with our customers as well. We respect each other as individuals. We all have different backgrounds. We come from different places. We respect the ideas and the thoughts, because at the end of the day, when we're respectful of each other, we encourage intellectual curiosity. We get the best ideas because we're listening to each other, because we respect each other's opinions. So that's how we are servant leaders. When we're living with this core value and this set of values, we're being servants to each other, and we're leading through our servant leadership. So that's what I call the first attribute, or the first balancing act of a servant leader. The other is relentless change. So this is number 2, and in relentless change, this is if I steal a line from Toyota. So people talk about us being a lean manufacturing. These are Toyota production system tools, and we're not, we talk about in lean stealing shamelessly, but you've seen the ads for Lexus. Great brand, wonderful product, flawless, and they talk about the pursuit of perfection. And that's what we talk about in relentless change. We're always on a journey to look for doing something better tomorrow than we did today. And if you take that pursuit of perfection and you go one step further, you find out, people talk about we're in a constant pursuit of perfection, knowing we will not achieve perfection, but along the way we're going to find excellence. That's a quote from our friend Vince Lombardi, right? So great leaders find a way to get through this journey and understand the difference between I've arrived or I'm constantly on this journey seeking perfection, knowing that perfect is not a human reality, but perfect as a journey is going to get us along the way, right? We're going to find some excellence. The other in sort of our world is what we call disciplined chaos. I told you what happened to us in November and December. We have to be disciplined about how those things will affect our business. So in those chaotic times, those things become a real challenge for us. When we started our lean journey, this is one of these examples. So it was about 1999 or 2000. So in a Gravely lawnmower, a big Gravely lawnmower, these are our commercial mowers, 72-inch cutting decks to 60, great for universities, great for big parks. On those, there are 3 blades, right? So a blade system that cuts grass is a fairly complicated thing. You go out and get on your rider and you go cut grass and you want it to throw out, right? There's a lot going on in there. We're turning a blade at 17,500 feet per minute. We're turning 3 of them, we're moving a lot of grass, whether it's really wet or really dry or really thick, clovery or bluegrass, all kinds of different grasses going on. There's a thing called the spindle. Think of it like a wheel hub on your car. The spindle on a deck, there's 3 of them, cast iron, 2 bearings, a shaft, fully assembled, painted, quite a lot of processes in those. In 1999-2000, our purchasing group came to us and said, hey, I can find a spindle made in China for about $16.50. Our in-house cost at the time, this is pre or early days of lean, was about $45 per spindle. There's 3 of them on a deck. It's a tremendous saving. So the first thing we did is we used that as a intuitive way to look at how do we do this better. It was actually one of those catalyst moments where we said to our teams in the plant, look, we either have to take this thing to China and import it and bring it to Brilliant in our plants for assembly, or we got to figure out a better way. And we did, at that time, it was the most remarkable Kaizen event we did in the history of the company. And in 1 week, we turned the cost around, which meant moving presses, moving machining, moving it closer to paint, putting the assembly internal to the machining cycle of the big lathes, and got our cost right at about $17. Did that in about 1 week. So real discipline to a process of continuous improvement and finding ways to eliminate the waste, and then having a real challenge, which created this chaos that allowed us to think a little bit differently and actually get everybody excited about keeping that work in our own plant. So from that day in early 2000 to fast forward now in 2016, we've literally done thousands of these kinds of events, and it was that catalytic moment that actually propelled us on our lean journey. So you need these sort of disciplined chaos ways to look at how you're going to attack a problem when it arises, or an opportunity. The next is something I like to call a benevolent dictator. And there's some truth in that, right? My son said to me the other day, you know, Dad, the best run country in the world is actually Singapore. Yeah, you know, you're probably right. It's a benevolent dictator down there running Singapore. Actually does a pretty good job. This crazy election cycle, which I'm not going to talk a lot about, but imagine how much easier it would be and how much money we wouldn't have to spend trying to get people elected. That's enough on that. One of the phrases that I did early in our lean journey and early when I took over as our CEO, which is now a long time ago, but I coined a phrase in one of our staff meetings that was pretty much accidental, but it still rings true. And it's harsh, but it's so true, and when I say it, you'll all probably nod your heads. But at that time, we were under a lot of stress, and we needed to find people that wanted to be part of where we were going, and not part of sort of this woe is me kind of thing. So at the time, I said, we're either going to change the people, or we're going to change the people. Right? We're either going to get people that want to be part of where we're going, but we don't have a whole lot of time to let them figure out if they want to be on our train. The train's pulling out of the station. I need people that want to either run or shovel coal or get on the caboose and help us find our way. We need navigators, we need drivers, we need leaders, right? So we were either going to change the people or change the people. And we did some things that were fairly radical early on. One of the things that was most important in those changes, I started really at the top and worked our way down, because I've always felt like it's good leadership or good management that directs the company, and then when we have, you know, problematic things, not weather, but business relative issues that cause dysfunction or cause the business to cycle downward, who gets the brunt of that action? It's usually, you know, your best laborers, your best skilled employees in the plant that get cut, and then you've got a bunch of managers. So I've always felt like we start at the top. If we don't make good decisions at our leadership level, there's a lot of families at stake. And that's part of the change the people or change the people. We have to have great leadership that can actually drive the business forward so that we put really good people to work and we keep providing for really good families in an area like the Valley here. Big difference for me. And that's why I think it's being the benevolent dictator. The other is what I call a fearless anxiety. And back in the days of our early transformation, we had this, it was traumatic. I mean, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I really up until about 2004, I don't think I ever got comfortable that our business was really out of the woods. And I know this is a long time ago, but I still use this as a center for me. But you know, there are literally nights you drive home and you think to yourself, as Tom introduced me, you know, you're the fourth generation of a business. You don't want to go into work every day thinking you got the job just because of the right DNA. You can't walk into work saying, I got the right name, so therefore I got the job. When you start to relax and say, that's why I'm here where I am, you're in trouble, right? So there's a whole lot of anxiety around having to carry that mantle and win and grow and propel and drive the business forward. So I think there's this absolute anxiety that has to always be a churn. And I don't care if it's, you know, someone that's head coach of the Green Bay Packers. If Mike McCarthy pregame doesn't have a big knot in his gut, did I put the right game plan together? Do I have the right guys? Did I put the right 46 on the field today instead of these guys or that? If you don't have a little bit of a knot, you're probably in the wrong place. Everybody should have a knot, you know, when you put a business plan together. And then once you're there on your field, or once you're there driving your business, or you have that business plan, well, of course you're going to make accommodations for whatever happens, right? But you better lead fearlessly, right? You better have a leadership attitude or a persona or a presence that basically says, we know what we're doing, we know where we're going, we will adjust if we see a problem or a challenge, but we're going to stand here fearlessly and run our business plan, no matter what comes at you. And let the knot grow. Don't let it be a stress. Go work out, go do something, but make sure if you don't have that knot in your gut, I would say that you need something that drives you even harder, right? The next is what I call cultural revolution, and it's, I guess one of the things that I'm proud of is the fact that we've taken this culture we call Ariens Company, our core values, our vision. I thought about this the other night. You know, this, for us, it was changing our thing over the last decade and becoming a different kind of business, a leader in our industry. That's sort of the revolution that I'm talking about, who Ariens is. We're still, you know, a middle market player in a pretty big industry. So our big competitors are people like Honda, who's in the power equipment business, John Deere, who's in ag and tractors, but they happen to make a lot of lawn tractors, you see. Toro Company, MTD, you might not know, but they make the Cub Cadet brand. Everybody in that zone, and there's two others, Husqvarna and a couple others, those guys are all, you know, about 3 to 4 to 20 times our size, much more resource. So what we've been able to do is be who we are. Had a great sermon on Sunday from a priest in Scottsdale. It was kind of interesting. You know, he started with, who are you, right? So to us, our culture is who we are. You know, we're going to continue to do our thing, be a middle market player. But one of the things I'm more proud of that I thought about this weekend is we've got literally 4 people in the Valley that have come through the Ariens system. They've grown and they found opportunities in the Valley, and they're now here running either small or larger enterprises in their companies outside of Ariens. So in many ways, our culture is sort of migrating around the Valley, and this system of core values and a good, strong vision is consuming parts of different small companies or larger, and that's actually exciting for me. If you're going to lose people, that's the way you'd like to have people lose, to move on to the next great thing for them and for their families. So that's part of this cultural revolution. My last is what I call confident humility, and I really like this one. This is kind of my favorite. I don't think you can be a great leader if you're not humble in some way, and if you don't kind of see yourself as having some flaws, I mean a lot of flaws, personal flaws. We're all human, and because you have the senior leadership position doesn't mean that you're perfect. And if you kind of walk around like you're perfect and everyone else is just sort of not quite as good as you, I think you're doomed to fail. And but that doesn't mean that you don't walk around with a real strong confidence in who you are, what you're doing. And I'd like to think that every leader in our business at any level has this tremendous balance between being a humble servant leader and someone who's very confident in where we're going. So that's kind of my last one. And just in close, I think the most important attribute of leadership is that it really is an art form. in business, in lean, everything is very measurable. Everything becomes very process driven, and what you are what you measure, right? We all know those things. But when it comes to leadership, now we're talking about human behavior, right? And human behavior is not perfectly measurable. It has all kinds of challenges in it. So the best thing we can do in our world, in our company, is make sure that this art form is at least drawn up in the type of way that we'd like, which is culturally our core values and our vision statement. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Yes?
You had some discipline chaos when you were working with the Muslims a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Comment?
Comment on my, yes. Right off the box, right out of the box. Yeah, we actually it's I guess we put that into discipline chaos or any one of these, but maybe the best way to answer that is sort of lessons learned, right? And I would say that we're still in the middle of sorting this out. But two lessons learned. One is it's very hard to manage a story that's got out way out in front of you. I mean a story on the news. So the first story came out at WBAY TV, and it was very inaccurate. Both the number of employees was said 78 to 80, and repeatedly we went to WBAY before the story ran to say there's only 53. That was one challenge. The other is we were very specific and said multiple times we had not terminated anyone. And that was really the most important part of this message. What happened is we talked to these employees about taking additional breaks, and there was this message that said you changed your break policy, and that's inaccurate. We never changed our break policy. Our break policy is 2 10-minute breaks per 8-hour shifts. They happen to be taking more time to go pray. So we were trying to A, get the story right, and B, make sure that we hadn't terminated anyone. We're working with these employees. And then there's a lot of people that wanted to come in and give us some help, right, from people that are representing one group or the other. And we're a non-union plant. There are 800 employees here in the Brilliant campus, and we wanted to be respectful of all 800 employees, not just deal with the issue for 53 employees. So it's trying to make sure that we got in front of the story as best that we could. The second lesson learned is, I guess, and my assistant Vicky's here, and she tells me this morning, I've got piles of mail with a lot of advice, and the email is I have 3 email accounts. I'm not going to give you those addresses, but we are into 10,000 emails of people that want to give us advice. Couple of lessons learned on the employee side of this thing. Think about, and I did this. I had to just stop and pause. Like go find a place to think. And think about the fact that these are Somali immigrants that have moved from Minneapolis to Green Bay. And before they got to Minneapolis, these were more agricultural workers. They were not familiar with a manufacturing plant. And they don't speak great English. We have interpreters who are there to help these employees. So we have a language issue, we have a cultural issue. And if you just peel all that away and you say, hey, by the way, these are people that are actually practicing their faith. And they're doing it in a way that they think is the right way for them to practice their faith. If I put myself as a Catholic in a country and I was trying to do that, you know that there's all kinds of different, so be understanding, I think, be respectful of the fact that they're just trying to do what they're used to doing. We're trying to get them to comply with working in a manufacturing environment and being respectful of what they do. And the choice is theirs. And they have to choose to practice their faith in a way that works in our work environment or practice their faith without this job. And so that's why I said we never terminated anyone. We're asking them to make a choice. So there's again, lots of advice. The answer is these are people looking to work, build a family. They came to the United States for a reason, and I think keep that perspective in mind. Yes?
Dan, your business is very affected by the weather.
Yeah.
Talked about that.
Thanks for a weather question.
How are you viewing climate change and how it affects your long-term strategic plan?
Yeah, that's a great question. So climate change is, it's a very slow-moving turtle, you know, but the controversy is if we're all going to fall off the earth in a year or two. I did a conference, I was on a young president's trip in Rome. We had a British climatologist, actually wasn't really a would-be climatologist. There's a lot of them. And he's the British kid that actually swam in the North Pole, right? And said it's so warm now you can swim there. He survived. But his whole point was the North Pole is melting the glaciers are melting at a 25% rate per year. So I just said, can't be. We got like 4 years. I mean, mathematically, it can't all be melting that fast. I think part of the science is really young, and the Earth is really, really old. You know, the Earth is hundreds and hundreds of millions of years old, as far as we know, right? The climate data goes back to the late 1800s, like 1885. You can't make conclusions based on that. So in our business, hey, if it gets warmer, there's more grass. And if it gets, and we're actually, the cycle, I would say study the sun more than the soil and the earth. The sun cycles we're going into a cooling period for the next 25 years. We like that. So we're actually designing bigger snowblowers because we see bigger storms coming. Tom?
Dan, you came of age in your company watching somebody, a leader who was very successful, embodied a lot of the servant leadership qualities you talked about, and you took over the company, but you confront new challenges and you're moving the company into a new century. What are some of the challenges about, how do you take over, from a family member, and how easy or difficult is that? And, do you have a lot of hard conversations?
Yeah, so my father ran the business for, from about 1969 to 1991. And then in between, or 92. And then in between we had a CEO, Dave Vanderzanen, who's a Valley person, ran it for 5 years, and then I took over. And Dad was amazingly patient, I think probably Job-ish. Not just with me, but with Dave as well, because when I took over, we were as messed up or messier than when Dave took over. And I don't know if Dave's here, but but we had the short story is I learned very quickly what the workout group is, and I was that naive. I didn't know what that meant when Associated called and said, Dan, we're going to put you in the workout group. I said, all right, you're going to help me work this out? No. I was that naive. We had, and here's the other deal. We were running 2 shifts of assembly production, and we had over 275 semi-truckloads of finished goods in inventory, and we didn't have orders to fill, and we were still running the plant 2 shifts because we were maximizing labor head absorption to get a profit through that year, and I took over the year after. And now I had to convince the bank that I wasn't just good DNA, that I could actually turn the business around, because we had just had a pretty smart financial guy running the business with a maybe better pedigree and better degree than I had. So, I had to figure that out. And Dad was, tremendously patient. These are examples of how he taught me to lead. You know, today we're in such a different place. I think because mostly that, you know, I hate to say this, but that changed the people. Where my father was really patient was he was extremely loyal to guys when maybe they had run their time. And I'm not so much. I mean, I don't think I'm a dictator, but I'm benevolent. But I just have a real impatience when you pay people a lot of money and you expect them to do their work and to lead well. And I always say when we hire one employee, we're responsible for at least 4 people. Mom, dad, 2 kids. They're putting their lives in our business to come in and make lawnmowers, but they want to put their kids through good schools. They want to have their second car. You know, it's the Henry Ford mentality, really. You know, so if leadership can't make that happen and keep us growing, then we got to find new leadership. Hi, Dan.
Succession, the next generation now. I know you've got some of your children in the business. You see them. Are you training them to be benevolent dictators, or?
I'm trying to convince them about confident humility. That's the. I'm glad they're not here, actually. We have 3 of our boys in the business today. Julie and I have 5 children. I don't know what the 2 girls. Claire is still in college, and Elise has just done her career. We have all of our kids. The rule is they got to work somewhere for at least 2 years outside of the business, and then. I'm not saying don't come in, but I am telling. I give them the speech that says, you know, if this doesn't work out, it's pretty hard to go out and put a resume together and say it didn't work out at the family business. So be aware that unless it's just really not you and you find out it's really not you. But yeah, we have to, I mean, I do a succession plan. I'd like to think that we could continue to be family run, but I know that we want to continue to be family owned. That's our goal. And at the same time, if you're family, you still have to be the best leader as well. So kids are young. I mean, they don't want to be kids anymore. 29 is our oldest, Nick, and then 28, 26. So, and I do a thing with the 3 boys right now where quarterly I meet with them one-on-one. We just talk about what's going on. And then also quarterly we meet as a group, the 3 of them and myself. And that stuff my dad didn't do that I've learned that's probably a good way to just, how's it going? What are you working on? And then they get to sort of vent with me, and you know, because there can be frustrations. It's different walking around the business when your last name's on the business card, and then if you're leading something else. It just is. I mean, I don't know how to tell you. It just is. Tim Bergstrom knows what I'm talking about, right? It's just you're on, right? So. Be on, and that's hard. Sometimes you just want to go away and take a nap.
Dan, you've done a tremendous job of giving back to the community and also giving back to your industry as far as the roles that you play. What's your philosophy as a CEO as far as that sense of responsibility?
Philosophy, it's very much like yours. I mean, I think we all do that. Every one of us in the room knows that we have a responsibility to the community at large. I'm the chair of the WEDC, which I was laughing the other day because we Googled, you know, actually when I Google my name right now, it's a lot of stories out there, but the one that gets a lot of local press is the WEDC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and from day one I was the vice chair. The governor in the last biennium took himself off as chair, and now I become the chair. And the thing that you need to know, it is not the TWEDC, because every headline calls it the TWEDC, which is the Troubled Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. We are not that troubled, but by reading the press you would think that we're a mess. That actually, just as long as I'm on WEDC, we've actually done a pretty good job in the state of Wisconsin. There's some data that I brought just for you to know, because people don't talk about this. we talk about jobs created. 2015, Wisconsin created 25,000 roughly jobs. You know, the governor had this promise of 250,000 jobs. That was a big promise. Probably wish he could take that back. That's a lot of jobs in Wisconsin. But what we don't talk about is that there are 81,915 job openings on the state's DWD website. So the Department of Workforce Development has available jobs, roughly 82,000 available jobs. There's 60,000 plus resumes that people populate that website with. I'm looking for a job, 80,000 jobs available, 25,000 jobs created. So there's this tremendous mismatch, and we talk about the skills gap, and that's really a big part of it. You know, either don't have the right skills or I don't have the right education for this job that's available. So, you know, if you could fill all those 80,000 jobs, the governor would be pretty close to what he promised. So, and the other is, this state has one of the lowest unemployment rates and one of the highest participation rates in the country. So we're getting really, you know, we need some people to move into the state. That's really what it comes down to. You know, I don't want to talk about migration, but we need immigrants. As a Republican, I'm telling you, we need to figure that out.
Maybe one more? Was there a question over there? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was curious, in your experience, Dan, what have you learned about these two kind of thoughts of leadership? Are they born or are they made?
Oh.
What's your experience on?
Yeah. I think, you know, I don't know who's born a leader. You might be born with really good football talent, but I think you got to learn how to be a really good leader. I don't know that, that my opinion is, we do a predictive index. I don't know if you knew Myers-Briggs, and everybody does these things. You can tell there are personality types that lend themselves better to be leaders than not. So if you use that, you could say, yeah, I'm born with that DNA, but you know what? You grow up in a household, you grow up in the right environment, you learn how to become that person that we've just scored you as on Myers-Briggs or predictive index. You could say that's born, but that's really development as a youth and growing up. I think that's part of learning, really. These attributes, you know, I think we all do leadership development, or we do succession planning. That all of that is part of developing people's leadership. And you know, I told our team this yesterday. We have a, you know, because of our issue right now with our employees, we have a crisis management team to make sure that we're really dealing with this current issue as well as we can. And I looked around the boardroom, and part of me went, geez, we had 16 people in the boardroom yesterday, all talking about the employee. We have 4 fronts: the employee issues, the PR issues. We have the legal issues on this issue, this thing, and then we have security issues. So we're getting a report from everybody. There's 16 people in the room, and part of me is frustrated that we've got this much energy around this issue. But on the other hand, I said, look, I said, you're learning a tremendous amount of things about how to lead through this kind of a problem. You're probably not going to see this business problem the rest of your lifetime. I mean, any one of you are probably saying, that could have been me, right? That could have been my employee population. But when you're dealing with it, your leadership is learning an awful lot. So I think the whole thing is, you know, you learn, every time you find a new problem, you learn something new about how to deal with it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. That's terrific, insightful, and demonstrating, again, to all of us why, to the extent you were born, to the extent you were made, you're a pretty good leader.
Thanks.
Outstanding. I want to thank you all again for coming. If you'd like a DVD of Dan's presentation today, please see Amy Sorensen. She's got her hand up right here. Amy can take care of you. And I dare say that's one that I think would be worth having and sharing over and over. Hope you can join us for our next CEO breakfast. That's also going to be right here at Udemore Country Club.
I think I left my
Our
phone
speaker
up there.
will be Kim Bassett, President and CEO of Bassett Mechanical. That is going to be on February 16th, so just a couple weeks.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks for coming. Keep an eye on the weather. Do be careful. We need you to get home so you can fire up your Ariens snowboard.
There you go. That's right.
We'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care.